Two empires, two droughts, one prophecy. Arsenal and New York Knicks. Spike Lee has spent 50 years watching the Knicks lose. This year he watched them win. Arsenal fans have spent over 2 decades hearing the same jokes. This year they stopped. And somewhere in between, a filmmaker, a football club, and a basketball team that shouldn't have anything in common do. Let's start with the numbers, because they're almost too clean. The Knicks hadn't won an NBA title since 1973, 53 years. Spike Lee was 16 years old the last time it happened. He's watched every single playoff run since, including the ones that broke his heart in 94 and 99. Arsenal's wait was shorter, but it wasn't short. Their last Premier League title came in 2003/2004. The Invincibles. 22 years unbeaten in that specific kind of pain. Watching other clubs, other cities, lift the thing you used to lift. Both droughts ended in 2026. That's not a coincidence anyone planned. But both trophies landed right as both clubs' commercial numbers were already hitting record highs. So let's follow the money, because the on-pitch story and the balance sheet story might be the same story. So what's the obvious comparison between the two? Well, I'd say it's the city they serve. London isn't just a cultural capital, it's the actual capital. Yes, New York doesn't have that title on paper, but try telling a New Yorker that, good luck. Did you know Arsenal's brand value alone jumped 21% in a single year to 1.2 billion euros? Brand Finance gave them a brand strength score of 92.8 out of 100, a treble A plus rating, and by their own read, the most efficiently run brand in the Premier League. Deloitte's numbers back it up from another angle. 821.7 million euros in total revenue in 2025, up 15%, and Arsenal were one of only 3 Premier League clubs to grow revenue across matchday, broadcast and commercial all at once. For years, none of that stopped the criticism. The Emirates is a library, not a stadium. A club more interested in shirt sales than trophies. You see, when there's no silverware to point at, a growing brand just looks like a distraction. Michael Arteta's rebuild didn't just win a trophy, it removed the only argument the critics had left. The Knicks have been living a version of this equation for decades. New York basketball culture and New York fashion culture were never separate things. The Knicks and Rangers together were valued at $13.5 billion by Sportico in 2025. 2 clubs, 2 cities exporting themselves, and now, for the first time in a long time, both have the trophies to justify the valuation. Here's a stat you won't find in a Deloitte report. Arsenal's home ground sits in Islington, wedged between Hackney, Tottenham and Finsbury Park. North London neighbourhoods reshaped from the 1950s onward by migration from the Caribbean, West Africa and East Africa. That's not incidental to the club's identity, it's central to it. Arsenal's first black player, Brendan Batson, arrived by way of Grenada and Trinidad in 1971. The side that finally ended Arsenal's first long wait, the 1989 title win, had Michael Thomas, Paul Davis and David Rocastle in it, sons of that same diaspora. Then came Ian Wright, not just a goal scorer, the first black English striker to be a genuine Premier League poster boy, someone who spoke, dressed and smiled like the people watching him from the stands. For a generation of young black Londoners, Wright was proof that where you're from doesn't cap where you can go. For decades, Arsenal has carried an affectionate nickname, inside black British culture, the Culture Club. In early grime videos, an Arsenal shirt was shorthand for authenticity, years before the club had a marketing plan for any of it. Could you imagine trying to manufacture that kind of connection today with a sponsorship budget? You can't buy it. Arsenal's deep support inside the Afro-Caribbean diaspora in London, and well beyond it, was never a campaign. The club just grew up inside a community and never left it. Now, shifting things on, could you imagine betting a title on a team with no single global superstar? That's effectively what both these clubs just did, and both of them won. Jalen Brunson was a genuine problem for the Knicks all season. Nobody's arguing that. He carried stretches of games nobody else could have. But the Knicks didn't win this the conventional way, with one MVP dragging 4 passengers. It was Brunson plus a defence that bought in, a bench that held up, and a coaching setup that got the role players playing above themselves. Arsenal's version is even starker. There's no single Ballon d'Or run in this squad. Declan Rice anchoring midfield, Gabriel and Saliba just being solid rocks at the back. Let's not even open a debate on who's better there, simply put, both just solid. Then the undeniable David Raya, who can't even get a place in Spain's starting lineup. Simply put, Arteta built a system of team where individuals have many traits and arguably not single standout traits. It's worked. Here's the probing part. Sports business has spent 2 decades betting that individual superstars, not systems, are what actually sells shirts and subscriptions. The Nike NBA jersey deal alone was extended all the way to 2037, built on the strength of faces like Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama. Not team systems. So can a title built on depth instead of a face convert into the same commercial upside? Early signs say yes. NBA global viewing hours were up 93% year over year this season, while the league's most talked about story was a starless Knicks team winning as a collective. In an era built on marquee names, both of these titles got won by structure instead. That might be a harder story to sell in a highlight reel. It might also be the more valuable one to tell first. Quick did you know before the big numbers. Back in 2010, around 2,000 ordinary Arsenal fans pulled £2 million to buy a stake in the club through a fan ownership scheme called Arsenal Fanshare. Arsenal's overall valuation has grown several times over since. Imagine being one of those 2,000 fans right now. Now the bigger picture. Arsenal belong to Stan Kroenke through Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, the Rams, the Nuggets, the Avalanche, the Rapids, the Mammoth, and Arsenal. 6 teams, 4 sports, 2 countries. CNBC and Forbes both ranked KSE the single most valuable sports ownership group on the planet in 2025. $21.2 billion. That's bigger than the next ownership group on the list. Fenway Sports Group, who own Liverpool, valued at $14.19 billion, by more than $7 billion on its own. The Knicks sit inside a completely different empire. James Dolan's Madison Square Garden Sports Corp owns the Knicks and the Rangers, plus the venues. Sportico's private market read values the Knicks alone at $9.85 billion and the Rangers at $3.65 billion, $13.5 billion combined. But here's the strange part. MSGS trades publicly, and Wall Street currently prices the whole company's enterprise value at just $6.6 billion. That's a 51% discount to what the private market thinks those 2 teams are worth. MSGS has now filed paperwork to spin the Knicks and Rangers out as a separate company, essentially betting that splitting the brand out will finally close that gap. So, one owner the market might be over-eager about, sitting on the most valuable sports collection ever assembled, and one owner the market is sceptical of, despite owning a team that just ended a 53-year wait in the biggest media market in the country. Where's the actual synergy? For Kroenke, Arsenal is already the door into a market the rest of his portfolio wants. A genuinely global fan base the Rams or the Avalanche will never build alone. Arsenal pull in over 22 million monthly searches worldwide and more than 110 million social followers. Cross-promote that into Rams and Nuggets markets, and 4 disconnected teams start looking like one fan base sold 4 different ways. For Dolan, the Knicks never needed a passport to sell out Madison Square Garden, but a title, plus a filmmaker with a global platform already wearing Arsenal red courtside, is the kind of bridge marketing budgets usually can't buy. Both come with a catch worth naming. Kroenke has spent years fielding Kroenke out criticism from Arsenal supporters. The Rams' relocation out of St. Louis is still, fairly or not, the first thing a lot of people think of when his name comes up. Dolan's reputation with his own fan base has been rockier still, very publicly, and for reasons that had nothing to do with basketball. Both men are now sitting on a winning, valuable product. The risk for both is identical. Spend the goodwill of an actual championship on the wrong thing, and the market discount, or the fan backlash, comes right back. There's another place Arsenal spend money they don't strictly have to, and it says something about the vision behind the badge. Arsenal women's wage bill jumped from £2.6 million to £4.3 million in a single year, a 65% increase. That's still nowhere close to the men's team's wage bill, north of £220 million. England captain Leah Williamson, one of the highest paid women in the squad, is reported to earn around £200,000 a year. Some of Arsenal's men earn that in a single week. So why keep pouring money into a team that, on a pure balance sheet, is still a loss leader? Because Arsenal women aren't just competing, they're delivering. A UEFA Women's Champions League title, beating Barcelona in the final. A WSL attendance record, 60,160 fans for a single Women's Super League fixture against Manchester United, not shifted to a smaller ground to cut costs, but played at the actual Emirates at the actual cost of hosting there. Plenty of bigger, richer clubs still treat their women's team as an afterthought in a stadium that seats a few thousand. Arsenal are paying full price to put their women's team on the same stage as the men, betting the audience and the return eventually catches up to the investment. That's not charity, that's a club backing its own long-term vision, even when the numbers don't fully pencil out yet. Spike Lee has been courtside for the Knicks since before most of their current fan base was born. Every playoff heartbreak, every rebuild, 53 years of it, what's newer is Arsenal. In April 2026, Lee directed Who Are Ya?, a short film for Arsenal and their finance partner, Airwallex. His words on it: "Fans today don't just follow the game, they understand everything around it too. The business side, not just the 90 minutes. That's not a throwaway line. That's basically this channel's mission statement," said by a Knicks superfan about Arsenal. He's since been photographed repping Arsenal at Knicks games. The crossover isn't a marketing accident. It's a guy who spent his life inside one fan base, recognising the same energy and the same business in another. So what does ownership actually say, in their own words, about the journey Arsenal's been on? Josh Kroenke, describing the years before this title, didn't hold back. "Sometimes we had people that not only were they not in the boat, but they're underneath the water with a rope trying to pull us back. We had to figure out who those people were, and we had to snip that rope along the way." That's ownership, admitting in public that the rebuild wasn't just tactical, it was political, inside the building. On the other side of it, the tone changed completely. Stan and Josh Kroenke in a joint message to fans: "Between us, we are building something very special. There will be no standing still when the season ends." And on the club's wider ambitions, the language keeps returning to one word: journey. "We have made great strides, and now we all hope and believe we can take the final steps required to reach the top." Josh Kroenke has also talked directly about matchday experience, pointing to what Kroenke Sports and Entertainment does at its US venues and promising Arsenal supporters an elevated matchday experience to match. Put together, an ownership group that's openly described cutting people loose to keep the boat moving, and is now talking specifically about what happens to the experience once you're actually at the top. £500 million. That's the reported bill for expanding the Emirates. Current capacity, just over 60,000. Already close to sold out every single week, and matchday was one of the 3 revenue lines Arsenal grew last year. The plans on the table would push capacity past 70,000. Some reporting has floated 80,000. It's not simple. London's mayor has sounded a note of caution. Islington Council and local community groups have to sign off. Realistic estimate: 5 years of negotiation before construction even starts, but the direction is clear. Arsenal aren't just trying to win more, they're trying to hold more paying, subscribing, merchandise buying people, physically, inside the club's growth story. 2 droughts, 2 cities selling themselves as the cultural centre of their countries, 2 fan bases built on real decades-deep community, not a campaign. 2 ownership groups, one the market loves, arguably too much, one it's discounting by half, both explicitly talking growth beyond the scoreboard, and both willing to spend on things that don't pencil out yet, from the women's game to the away support abroad. 2 rosters that won as a collective, in an industry still betting everything on individual stars, and one filmmaker who happened to be sitting in both buildings when it finally turned. Arsenal aren't just trying to win trophies anymore, they're trying to build an export, the way New York already has, the way Kroenke's done across 6 teams and 2 countries. New breakdown every Thursday. Subscribe if you want the receipts.